Hello, and welcome to another episode of Activating Greatness, the show where we dig into what it really takes to lead with purpose, inspire performance, and create lasting impact. As always, I'm your host, Alec McChesney, and every episode we sit down with leaders, thinkers, and change makers who are unlocking potential in themselves, their teams, and their organizations. Here, we talk about the real stuff: leadership that drives culture, strategy that creates momentum, and the mindset that turns good intentions into game-changing results. Because greatness, it isn't a title, it's a choice. It's something you activate every single day. So thank you. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for being part of a community of leaders who refuse to settle for good enough. Now, let's dive in and meet today's incredible guest. Today's guest is Carolina Alarco, co-founder and co-chair of Latinos in Bio, a first of its kind nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting leaders and professionals in biotechnology and the life sciences. Carolina founded Latinos in Bio with her co-founder, Jose Estabil, to address a gap she saw firsthand: the lack of visibility, access, and leadership pathways for Latino professionals in the biotech industry. What began as a small steering committee in 2019 has grown into a thriving national organization with about 1,800 members, even through the challenges of the pandemic. Under Carolina and Jose's leadership, Latinos in Bio has built programs focused on mentorship for and early career professionals, leadership development for mid-career professionals, and C-suite and board readiness programs for more senior professionals, partnering with leading biopharma organizations across the industry to advancement and achieve impact. And today we're going to talk about why investing in leadership development is one of the most powerful ways to create opportunity, representation, and long-term impact, not just for individuals, but for an entire industry. Carolina, thank you so much. This is an episode that we have been really excited about for a long time now. Everybody who listens to the show knows that I want to get off and running and asking you questions and talking about leadership pathways. But before we do that, I'd love to give you a chance to maybe further introduce yourself to those who aren't familiar with Carolina today.
Sure. Thank you, Alec, and thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor for me to be here. So I'm Carolina Alarco, originally from Peru, but have lived in the Boston area for about 30 years in biotechnology, working alongside scientists to develop wonderful drugs for patients for different indications. I've been mostly specialized in rare diseases, but I've covered all kinds of now biotechnologies and medical technologies as well. So medical devices. I'm also getting a little bit into space tech, which is wonderful. We can probably talk a little bit about that too. And I am the co-founder of Latinos in Bio. It's a nonprofit organization, as you said. We started it well back in 2019. It was more of an informal group, and in 2021
Yeah.
we actually incorporated it as 501c3 organization. We are now 1,800 members, and we do many programs. So we can talk about that in detail in the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's exactly where we want to start, Carolina. And I'll say one more time, and I'll probably say it again at the end, but I really appreciate you spending some time with us and telling us the story a little bit in more detail about the gap in representation and advancement that you saw. And that was really at the foundation of why you and Jose built Latinos in Bio. What experiences led you to create this organization? And as you and Jose were setting out to do so, what
Mhm.
problem were you most committed to solving?
Yeah, so Jose and I had been in the biotech industry for many years. However, he and I did not meet each other until maybe having been in the industry for 15 or maybe 20 years. So we
Wow.
were wondering how many other Latinos were going to be out there working as professionals in the biotech industry and do not know each other. So we saw a need for networking to begin with. And then there was an article in Nature Biotechnology talking about or comparing the percentage of the population that is Latino versus non-Latino, white versus Asian versus Black, etc. And in that data, and in biotech we are like very focused on data. So when we saw the data, it basically featured that about 20% of the population is Latino in the United States. However, there was only 6% of the workforce in biotechnology that is Latino. So there was like a disproportionate representation. And when you looked at management, it was about 3% of management in biotech was Latino,
Mm.
and in boards, less than 2%. So we realized that there was a disproportional representation, and we were hoping to find the reasons why this was happening. And one of the reasons is that there are misconceptions in the Latino community that you need to be a PhD or a
Mm.
scientist to join the biotechnology industry. They don't know that the industry offers positions like in legal, in finance, in business. Like myself, I'm not a scientist. In HR. I mean, the industry really has multiple functions to offer opportunities for work for professionals that are not scientists. Of course,
Yeah.
scientists, if you're a scientist, is a wonderful industry to be in. There is also academia, for example, or healthcare, like the hospital systems and things like that. But you don't necessarily need to be a scientist to join biotech. So we set out to make sure that we had awareness of this, and that there was education around what other opportunities the industry offered for professionals in general. And by doing so, we wanted to encourage more Latino young professionals or young students to look at the industry as an opportunity for their professional development. Mhm.
Yeah, and you mentioned you and Jose had been in these roles for a long time and not even known that the other was in that position or knew of them. And hey, let's see how many others of us are out there. And it
Mhm.
starts in 2019. You have 15 people. You
Mhm.
build more process in 2021, and to your point, now we're at almost 1,800 members. What has fueled that growth? What needs were you hearing from the Latino community, from the Latino professionals that really shaped where this was heading? Because at first it kind of seems like it was just, hey, who's who and can we network and at least know each other? And now it's this widespread organization that has all of these different programs. What really led to that? And what did you learn along the way over the last 6 or 7 years?
I think that the most important thing is that we are providing value to the community,
Mm.
right? To professionals in the industry, and we are fulfilling an unmet need. And we grew a lot, like at the beginning during 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic, because
Yeah.
we had the ability. Everybody went online and everybody was virtual, so we had a huge growth there, thanks to the pandemic, if there is silver lining there.
Yeah.
But we had continued to grow through our sponsors. So we have many companies, more than 20 companies in the biopharma space that are sponsors of Latinos in Bio, and all of their employees that are in their Latino ERGs are
Mm,
joining the organization.
that's great.
Again, our organization is across all of the biopharma companies. We don't just focus on the sponsors or anything like that. We actually have non-Latino members as well. So we call them amigos, so we are
Mm,
Latino professionals and amigos that want to support the Latino community or that are interested in networking and doing business with the Latino professionals in the space. And I think the growth is because we offer a lot of valuable programs for them, not just
mm.
the networking opportunities. We have, I think, almost 10 events a year. Some of them in
Wow.
Boston, some of them in California, some of them in Miami. We co-host some events with other organizations too. And So those are networking opportunities, which are very valuable in our industry. But we also offer, as you mentioned at the beginning, in partnering with Velocity Advisory Group, which is a wonderful, wonderful professional development company. We offer mentorship programs for early career professionals in biotech. So we pair up young professionals with much more seasoned professionals, I would say, or senior professionals, normally in their same function. So we do a lot of, homework in terms of understanding the profile of a mentee to pair them up with a
Mm,
mentor that will really make an impact and will relate to the experience of the mentee. So that's a wonderful program that runs every spring. And then after that, between the spring and the fall, we have a new leadership development program for emerging leaders, meaning
yeah.
graduates of the mentorship program, if you will, that are now looking to advance their career from an individual contributor to a manager or supervisor
Mm,
of people and having direct reports. And that is a big change in anybody's career. So we want to make sure that we prepare our professionals to do that, and they advance their leadership journey and accelerate their leadership journey as much as possible. And then after that, so for, those are for mid-career professionals, if you will. But for more senior professionals, we have the C-suite and board ready program, which runs, that's an in-person program. Actually, the other two are virtual. So the C-suite and board ready program is for senior professionals that are at the stage where they think they can push their career to the C-suite, right? Like a CSO or a
yeah.
CEO or a CBO role in any biotech, and also to, be prepared to be a board member in different biotechs and how to get there. It's very important. So we have all those programs that I think we're offering our membership, and they create a lot of value. Mhm.
Yeah, well, it makes obvious sense why someone would want to join. And I think when we were in our prep call, you also mentioned there's no cost to join. You can
Yes,
sign up and you're a part of these opportunities and the networking events and the programs that the organization offers. Is that right, Carolina?
that's correct. So becoming a member of Latinos in Bio is free. You just have
Yeah.
to go to latinosinbio.org and, click on become a member, fill out a form, because we do collect demographic information so that we have data to show to our sponsors. But the organization is basically a volunteer organization. We don't have, basically paid full-time staff. We don't have an executive director or anything like that. We want to, make sure that it's still lean and efficient, and we are sustained by the capital, that the sponsorships that we get from our sponsors. So we have annual sponsors, which are normally biopharma companies, biotech companies, or pharmaceutical companies, which are, basically become sponsors for 12 months. And then they offer all of the benefits at different levels
Yeah.
to their employees. And then we have like event sponsors, which are mostly service companies that service the community, like, banks, law firms, companies that want to get their name out there in the biotech Latino community. Mhm.
Oh, that's great. You're so passionate about the organization, but also about the leadership development aspect of this. And you mentioned something in your initial answer that you don't have to be a scientist to work within this industry. And the biotech industry, like everyone else, needs good leaders. We need more people who have management training and leadership development. And we talked about C-suite and board readiness and the mentorship. What in your career, what in Jose's career led you to say, hey, this is it? This is not just a networking. This is, we're going to invest in leaders. We're going to invest in management, training and readiness. So that way they can take on those opportunities. Why are you still so passionate about that? And what maybe led to that being the focus over the course of your career and Jose's career?
Well, I think that what the organization set out to do is not only to make sure that we meet each other, but that we prepare the younger generations to take on
Mm,
leadership roles in the future. We feel that by having a diverse, workforce and a diverse top of the, the leadership, the executive team, if you will. If the executive team is diverse, not only they
yeah.
will make better decisions for the company and make the company successful in terms of performance, but they will also make sure that the workforce in that company reflects the population of the United States and reflects
Yeah.
more, the reality, and people in the Latino community will be happy working there because it's multicultural environment, and we are sure the atmosphere would become a lot better and more friendly. Mhm.
Yeah. Is this something where sometimes you see the programs that are available and you say, I wish I would have had this 15, 20, 30 years ago, as you were coming up and you were learning through the process and didn't have a resource like this? Is that part of that build as well to say, okay, what did we learn and how did we learn it? And how do we implement that for the future generations? What does that look like as you start to build this out? And how do you feel about that now, Carolina, looking backwards?
I feel very good. I think that so when I started in biotech, we were just very few Latinos in
Yeah.
the biotech industry. The biotech industry was emerging at that time in the 90s, and companies were really small, and obviously Latinos did not look at the industry as a great place to work. But I think that the industry has matured a lot, and now the workforce is a lot more diverse, and
Mm,
it's very welcoming to everyone, not only people that are working in functions related to the research and development of drugs and therapies or devices, but also in any kind of function. As I said, if you're a lawyer, you can work in biotech. If you are a human resources professional, you can work in biotech. If you're a finance professional, you can work in biotech. If you're a marketing professional or a sales professional looking at biotech, which is a wonderful industry, by the way. Biopharma has really become a key industry in the States, and
yeah.
it offers wealth creation opportunities that other industries might not offer, like
Mm,
generational wealth creation opportunities. And
yeah.
you do well by doing good. So it's
Mm,
also very fulfilling from the helping the patient standpoint, right? So from just you know the satisfaction, like personal satisfaction through your work. It's very hard work, of course. It's very hard work. It's a complex industry, so it's not easy. It's not easy to get
yeah.
in. It's very very complex, and you need to do a lot of studying, but it's a wonderful industry that offers phenomenal opportunities. So the programs that we are offering did not exist before, and people tell us that they are truly wonderful, and they impact their lives in a way that in the past there was nothing for them. So we
Mm,
really truly tailor the programs to the Latino professionals, to their needs, to what we, when we were young, Jose and I, and the other board members, which are wonderful professionals, when we were young, we had needs that were not fulfilled by the programs that existed. So we are modeling the
yeah.
programs based on that. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much good there. And I also love that you bring in others, right? We talk about the amigos, but you talk about Velocity Advisory Group and some of the other sponsors that are at play to say, okay, hey, maybe we're not the expert in this, but we're going to go find them and we're going to introduce you to them. And we're going to bring in exterior or external partners to help drive this forward. And it goes back to you saying at the beginning, the reason it's grown is the value that they get out of this is
Mhm.
tangible. And you're able to introduce them to new ways of thinking and new individuals, new mentors, new programs that otherwise there just would not be that access to, which is great.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, we bring partners because So we are just a board of like 17 people, and we
Yeah.
don't have full-time staff. We have a wonderful, communications specialist, Fernanda, who actually manages the whole organization. Kudos to her, and I wanted to give her a shout out. But also people like Yvette Costa, for example, and Bob Weinhold in Velocity. They are true coaching professionals and professional
Mhm.
development experts, and we are not. So I think that we need to recognize where we need external expertise, and we bring them to work together with us
Yeah.
in this journey, basically. Mhm.
Ah, gosh, I love it, and I love the language of investment for these individuals. Right, this is about investing in them, but it's also about showcasing what's possible and increasing the visibility for them too. So we've talked about skills and training. You talked
Mhm.
about at the beginning that it was kind of that networking, mentorship, partnership, and this is a tough question, Carolina, for 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the episode, but how do you see increasing visibility and the social capital change that we're talking about from the career perspective of these individuals within the Latino community? How do you see this changing the future of the industry and where it goes forward? You mentioned if the C-suite is more diverse, then there's going to be better decision making. You're also going to have more a more diverse company, more than likely, but you're also
Mhm.
going to have the next generation saying, "Hey, I can do that." So, just talk to me a little bit about how that's being perceived internally and externally for you guys as you look at this as a whole.
I think we have a lot of support from sponsors, and I think the future looks brighter, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
The way that we encourage these young professionals to really take their careers to the next level, it's
yeah,
something that, it's something that, because a lot of the Latino professionals are first generation college graduates, for example.
yeah,
They don't, necessarily at home. I mean, they have a wonderful families probably, but they don't get that sense of, well, we have to push harder to prosper in our careers, to move our careers forward.
yeah,
So a lot of them did not have that push, that drive, that we encourage them to really, again, take on new challenges, advance your career, prosper, not just for you or for wealth creation necessarily, but for the next generation that is coming after you. You have
yeah.
to do that, because if it's not you, then who will,
Whew.
forge a path for the next generation? So I
Yeah,
think that the future, with not only with what Latinos in Bio is doing, but also other organizations like Women in Bio and others, it looks bright. And I'm glad that these young professionals find these support groups that,
yeah.
that are working now hand in hand with them, because they might not have had anything if we did not exist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And at the company level within the industry, you have to be excited about organizations like Latinos in Bio that are supporting. We talked about the need for good management and good leadership. And what a better way, what a great way to find that through these types of programs that you've now brought to the table. You talked a little bit about the future, and we're now 7 years in. I'm sure it has flown by with the pandemic, but 7 years in since this first idea has really emerged. I'm gonna ask a two-part question. The first is, 7 years in, what are you most proud of from Latinos in Bio?
I think the sense of community that we
Mm,
have been able to build is parallel to none. I think that we are lucky that our members truly enjoy not only spending time in our events and networking with each other, but I think we have created opportunities for new jobs, for example, or business. Right? It's not just networking to create a social relationship, but it's also to create a business relationship and doing business with
yeah,
each other. It's something that the community was is not very used to, doing business with each other. We look at other communities where they do make an effort to do business with each other, and I think that we are creating that. So I think that, community building is wonderful, and the impact that we're having in the young generations and forging a path. Those are the things that I'm most proud of. Mhm.
Yeah. And as we look 7 years into the future, what do you see as, we talked a little bit about growth, but where do you see the greatest opportunity for expansion, not only for Latinos in bio, but just within the programs and the leadership development as a whole?
So I think that we could expand geographically. So right now, our membership is very concentrated in the Northeast and California,
Yeah.
but we want to expand to areas like North Carolina, where a biotech hub is being built, South Carolina as well, Texas, um, Illinois, and Florida, for example, that where a biotech hub and a biotech ecosystem is starting to emerge, right? Similar
Yeah.
to Boston, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. So we want to expand geographically, one. And second, in the future, we would like more participation from Latinos in the biotech industry. So one thing that we need to make sure is to attract regular
Mm,
Latino students, maybe students and young professionals to come and work in the industry. We're still very
yeah.
low in numbers, to be honest with you. So in 2018, we were like 20% of the population. I think we're about 25% or 30% now and growing. We are the fastest growing segment of the US population.
Yeah.
And I think that we are still very low, like maybe 10% of the biotech workforce.
Mhm.
So I think we are not going to stop until we are proportionally represented and 30% of the biotech workforce is Latino. Mhm.
Oh, I love it. It's a great goal to be able to set after. And when you look at the mission and the vision of Latinos in bio, being able to tie it to that is such an easy conversation to have and a selling point. And we'll make sure to include the links to Latinos in bio and how to register and how to learn more in the episode show notes here, Carolina. I've still got to ask you rapid fire leadership questions, and then we'll get you out of here after I give you a chance to
Okay.
to 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 sign off. But the rapid fire leadership questions, about 30 seconds each. There's four of them, and I'm curious to see where you're going to go with these. So, question number one is, what is one leadership habit that you rely on every day?
Discipline and
Mm,
discipline for strategic thinking as well as for execution, because we need to be
I
really
love it.
disciplined. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the most important habit that a leader can have, right?
Mm,
Um, it's, I think, when you are planning and having a great strategy is not enough. You need to have the discipline to go and execute it. W-
mhm.
Strategy without execution is nothing. Hmm.
Nothing. Discipline and consistency win time and time again. That's a great, great first answer. We're going to go to question number two. What's the most underrated skill that a leader needs to succeed today?
Fearlessness.
Tell me more.
I think fear is in our head, and it's one of our most important obstacles. And we just need to, when you want to be a leader and lead, you really need to have, of course, you need to take risks that are, uh, you know, educated risks, if you will. Uh,
Yeah.
but but you need to be fearless. And this is something that we talk about in Latinos in Bio with our young professionals all the time. It's not enough to be great at what you do. Is you have to be visible, and you
Mm,
have to make sure that your accomplishments are noticed. And for that, you need to
mm,
present with confidence. You need to have an executive presence. You need to make sure that that you have um, the ability to self promote without sounding cocky, right? But self
yeah.
promote to make sure that you can drive your career to the highest levels, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm.
fearlessness is to me a great skill. Hmm.
I love it, and part of becoming that leader is the ability to make decisions knowing that it could go wrong, right? If you only make decisions when it's a 100% yes, then, you're not actually putting yourself in the position of a leader. So, I love that answer. We're going to go to the flip side of this for question number 3. What's something that great leaders need to stop doing?
I think great leaders need to stop bragging. Um,
Mm,
I think that humility goes a long way, humbleness. Um, I think one should be, uh, if you're a leader, if you are too full of yourself, I think it's going to be counterproductive in your
yeah,
message, and people will, even if they respect you, they will stop respecting you if it's
yeah.
too much. Hmm.
Yeah, when in our management courses that we offer through Velocity, there's a lot of conversation around when the team wins, it should be a team win, not a
Hmm.
leader win. And look at me, the team did it, and knowing how to be able to speak to that. I think that humility aspect of being a leader and being a team leader is so important. The last of our rapid fire, Carolina, is what's the best leadership advice that you've ever received?
I think that one of the CEOs that I had the pleasure to work with throughout my career in biotech um, told me once that some of the criticism that you hear is just noise, and
Mm,
when you are a young professional and you hear people talking about you, maybe in a great way or not in a good way, you should consider that noise and continue just to forge ahead.
yeah,
You should not feel let's say sad about maybe people not appreciating everything that you do,
yeah.
and literally um, that noise should not paralyze you. Mhm.
It shouldn't stop you from progressing and
Mhm.
moving forward. And there is a lot of noise in today's market, not only about the individual, but about teams and organizations. And so knowing how to decipher what is feedback and what is noise, I think is also a really important piece of that.
That's
Carolina,
a great
thank you
distinction.
for
Yeah,
I love it. I
yeah,
love it. That's why we're
that's
here. That's why we're here.
yeah, that's a great
Um,
distinction, between feedback and noise. Obviously, you're
Noise.
supposed to get feedback from your supervisor and from people that you trust, but the rest could be noise, and you should just
Yeah.
continue to forge ahead. Don't let it get you. Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. The last question that we have is who do we interview next, Carolina? This has been such a wonderful conversation. Who is somebody in your network who is doing meaningful work that the Activating Greatness audience can learn from?
I'm gonna say maybe interview Giselle Perez,
Mm,
who is the current chair of Latinos in Bio. And she is a senior executive in human resources at Biogen.
yeah.
And, she's just a wonderful person that has done really, really great in her career. And in doing that, she has helped a ton of young professionals, and she's working in one of the largest biotechnology companies right now, Biogen, and she is the chair of the Latinos in Bio organization. Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. I will follow up with Giselle. We'll make sure that we get her on the podcast. I knew going in that this was going to be a great episode, and somehow we're already at the 35-minute mark of you and I going back and forth. I think we could go for a lot longer, but I want to be respectful of our time, respectful of your time. One last time, Carolina, I want to give you the microphone. Anything that you want to close out with that you want to share with our audience and with the listeners of this episode today?
Just thank you, Alec, for being such a wonderful host, and also thanks to Velocity, the Velocity Advisory Group. They are a wonderful partner for us in our professional development program. So thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you to Carolina for sharing your expertise, your wisdom, not only with us, but with Latinos in bio. We need more organizations, more leaders like yourself who are not only willing to, but want to give back and invest in the future leaders of these organizations. If you listen to this and you're really interested, whether you are going to be an amigo or you're going to sign up, make sure you connect with Carolina on LinkedIn. Go check out Latinos in Bio online. They're very active on their website and on their LinkedIn. We'll put all of the links within the show notes. If you did love this episode, which I know you did, certainly let Carolina know that you loved the episode. Leave it a 5-star review. We're still proving that it works somehow. We're 25 episodes in. So every time that you leave a comment, you ask a question, you give me or Carolina feedback, it just continues to drive the show forward. So thank you as always for being a part of a community of leaders who refuse to settle for good enough. And we'll see you on the next episode of Activating Greatness. Carolina, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alec.